Here's what's coming up on Strategic Wealth with Matt Dickett.
So sometimes individuals have a lot of risk in their portfolio, sometimes they don't. Sometimes certain things that can happen in the economy would be good, sometimes it would be bad. There are certain things that you can invest in that will not have necessarily the same risk and volatility of investing in individual stocks and mutual funds, but you can still earn a reasonable return. Now reasonable return means different things to different people.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's show.
We have an action-packed 30 minutes worth of information and material designed specifically for you.
So stick around. Strategic Wealth starts right here, right now. This week in the office, we had a gentleman come by that had lost quite a bit of money back in 2008 and just didn't want to go through that again. So we wondered, what does he need to do in order to get his arms around what type of risk he has right now versus how much of his portfolio is safe. So what we were able to do is we were able to plug his portfolio into a software program that we have that can actually measure the level of risk that one has in their portfolio. Matt, can you help explain how that works?
Yeah, it's an interesting software program, Dustin, in that we can play different what-if scenarios and see what the specific impact would be on a portfolio. So sometimes individuals have a lot of risk in their portfolio, sometimes they don't. Sometimes certain things that can happen in the economy would be good, sometimes it would be bad. Right. So we can run basically what we call a stress test, where individuals feel like they have a diversified portfolio, but what if we have another financial crisis like 2008? What if, God forbid, there's another terrorist attack on U.S. soil? What if some good things happen in the economy? Maybe unemployment suddenly goes down, or obviously the price of oil and gas goes really low, so everybody can spend and enjoy more funds. We can run all those different scenarios, good things and bad things, and then project what the impact would be, because basically we have over 100 years of historical data in the stock market. And like I always say, no two events are going to be exactly alike, but we can probably find something similar that's happened in the past and see what the impact would be on your portfolio. So we basically take a look at different economic indicators, things such as consumer price index, or the value of the 10-year treasury, or unemployment, or the S&P 500 index, the price of gold, the price of gas, things like that. And we can take a look at scenarios that have happened in the past and see what the change would be on those different economic indicators. And then based upon those changes, we can project the assets in your portfolio, how will they respond. So an example would be this. If we take a look at, say, another terrorist attack, we hope it doesn't happen, but it's a question that we get a lot of times. If we take a look at what happened last time that we had a terrorist attack in this country, anybody that had stocks that had anything tied to travel, or things like Carnival Cruise Lines or the airlines or any type of entertainment, those type of stocks really suffered. They really didn't do well at all. I can remember shortly after September 11th, I was on a cruise, and we had this entire ship. I think it was supposed to be several thousand. There was maybe a few dozen of us because people were just scared. They didn't want to travel. They didn't want to fly, and they certainly didn't want to be on a cruise ship. So sometimes when we run this analysis, if we see that someone owns the stock of one of the major cruise lines or Disney or something of that nature, well, those stocks aren't going to perform very well, right? God forbid something like that happens. Now, the flip side of it is if you have money invested in gold or maybe a defense company, well, unfortunately, in those scenarios, that might actually, if we had a terrorist attack, those scenarios actually cause those types of assets to go up in value. So we hope that doesn't happen, but depending on what you have in your portfolio can either be good or bad. So what we can do is run the stress test and run literally about 1,000 to 2,000 different scenarios through it, and then say, okay, do we have any common denominators? Do we have any assets that consistently, good things, bad things, consistently underperforms? And then we can analyze and evaluate whether or not those assets should be kept and maybe something different should be done. So it's something that we always recommend. It's a good way of getting a good second opinion, and it can really help you answer that question that I think a lot of people have. what if this happens or what if that happens? What's the impact going to be on my portfolio? Without actually getting an analysis done, everything else is just guesswork.
And a lot of times there's kind of a disconnect on what people think they have versus what type of risk they actually have, right?
Yeah, you know, we meet with individuals all the time where we ask the question, you know, how much are you comfortable in losing?
Right.
We hope to never lose, but if we did, you know, your money's at risk in the market. Obviously, you know that there's some risk there. We have individuals all the time that will say, well, you know, I don't want to lose any more than 5% or 10%. You know,
But then they're set up to lose potentially 40 and 50%.
Yeah, and in certain scenarios, certain things that can happen, when we run the stress test, we'll find that, well, you know, if some things happen again in the future, like have happened in the past, you'll lose 20, 30, 40, some cases 50% or more in value. So getting the stress test at least identifies those assets that we need to be concerned with, and then you can make an informed decision as to whether or not you want to continue with that same portfolio or maybe look at an alternative.
Thanks, Matt. If you have more questions or would like your portfolio to be stress tested, feel free to call our office and or visit our website.
Remember when life was simpler? When things didn't move quite so fast? And the world didn't seem so complex? Remember that? We do. And as the world around us has continued to speed up, becoming more complicated, and still a bit uncertain, we have managed to keep things simple, providing sound, easy-to-understand financial advice and customized roadmaps for the road ahead, from tax reduction strategies, investment advice, and guaranteed retirement income you cannot outlive, backed by the claims-paying ability of insurance companies. We can be your single point of contact, a single call, a voice you recognize well, and a partner who can be by your side for the entire journey. We can't stop the world around us, but we can help ensure you're prepared for what's to come. To schedule a no-obligation meeting, simply contact us today.
The closer I get to retirement, the more worried I am about the volatility in the stock market. Are there safer ways to invest my money and still see a decent return?
Well, the good news is, Jackie, there are certain things that you can invest in that will not have necessarily the same risk and volatility of investing in individual stocks and mutual funds, but you can still earn a reasonable return. Now, reasonable return means different things to different people. Usually what we mean when we talk about reasonable returns, we mean that we're going to average somewhere between 6 and 10% per year. And you can do that in a safer environment. There are different types of annuities that could possibly do that for you. There's different structured notes or even certain types of dividend-paying investments where you use some sort of a stop loss on those types of positions to make sure that you don't lose anything if the market were to go through a correction. So there are certainly alternatives out there. Obviously, since you're asking the question, I think it would make sense to talk with someone, either ourselves or get a second opinion from another advisor. But there are plenty of things that are available.
Hi, Matt. Sadly, I'm not as knowledgeable and experienced as I should be in the world of finances and investments. So my question is, do I just let a financial advisor make all the decisions and trust him, or do I have to assume a role and responsibility in this process to be successful and financially stable?
Well, Donna, I think you probably need to do a little bit of both. You're going to need to find a financial advisor that you can trust, that you feel confident has your best interest at heart, but you also are going to have to get educated a little bit on things yourself so you know the appropriate questions to ask and the appropriate things to look for in a good advisor for you. A great resource that I can recommend to you is my book, Retirement Planning in a New Direction, A Return to Common Sense. This is going to be a great place to start. I wrote it specifically for individuals that are in similar situations such as yourself, and it's very easy. It's a simple read. So it's going to be a little bit of research or work or education that you're going to have to do for yourself, but then finding a financial advisor that you feel confident can help guide you through your future.
As a single female head of household, like many others in my position, I'm about 2 paychecks away from some serious disaster. I keep an OMG fund, and I try and keep it going, but it pretty much keeps us at our budget. I'm going to eventually have to retire, and I haven't been able to sock things away. What I really want to keep in focus and hear from you is it more important to stay out of debt or to save away for retirement?
Well, Ruth, thank you for the question. Unfortunately, I don't think it's one or the other. I think you're going to have to try and do a little bit of both. Obviously, staying out of debt is extremely important, but you also need to be setting aside as much money as you possibly can for your retirement and for your financial future. One of the things that you want to make sure you don't do, a lot of times individuals will recommend that you don't do any investing until you've paid off all of your debt. And I don't necessarily think that that's a good idea. You need to do a little bit of both, because what you want to do is make sure you have plenty of time for your investments to grow so they can take advantage of compound interest. It takes several years for compound interest to really start to work in your favor. So doing everything you can do to avoid debt obviously is important, but also you've got to, if you're not already, you've got to start setting money aside for your future.
Hey Matt, like most people, you work a lot of hours, you're busy with family, and all of life's priorities kind of take over on a daily basis. The whole balance of retirement, 401k, savings, keeping an eye on it, talking to a broker, structure. Where do you begin?
Well, Rick, I really think that it starts with having a plan. One of the things that we do in our office for individuals that are maybe in similar situations to you, where you have different investments out there, but you might have what we refer to as fragmented planning. It's not organized or coordinated work, making sure that it's working together. One of the things that we do in our office is we run a retirement income analysis for individuals, where we can take a look at all the planning that you've done in the past, talk about what your goals are as far as what you're trying to accomplish moving forward in relation to retirement, and then we try and see if you're on the right track or not. What that plan will do for you is it will begin to help answer some of those questions that you have for us. It's hard to focus on all these different things, especially if you don't have an organized, coordinated plan, so that's where I would definitely start.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to send me an invitation? Will you be there for my ball games? Will you teach me your values? Will you be able to play with me? Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. swdgroup.com.
Okay, this week I want to talk with you about something a little bit different. Obviously, we're calling this particular segment the Did Money option, and you might be wondering, well, what is it that we're talking about? When we refer to Did Money in our industry, what we're talking about is any money that's not actually earning any interest. So I know that there's individuals out there that have been scared about the stock market and the bond market, so they're sitting on a significant amount of money in cash, and that could be in a checking account, a savings account, or a money market account. We are really getting little to no interest. Now, I want to talk for a few moments specifically to the parents and the grandparents that are out there that are looking for ways to tax efficiently pass money on to maybe children or grandchildren. What we've been doing is we've been going over an option that's not a perfect fit for everybody, but a lot of individuals have been intrigued by it, where it's a really good way to pass any money that you have that's currently not earning any interest, that you don't necessarily want to put at risk, but it's a good way to pass it on to your heirs and beneficiaries. So what we have is an option that when you invest your money in it, what you're saying up front is that you don't plan on taking 100% of your money out of the account for 10 years. Okay, so what you're doing here is you're making some sort of a time commitment, and in this scenario, it's a 10-year time commitment before you take it all out. Now, you can access the money prior to the end of the 10-year period. You have basically a 5% penalty-free withdrawal that you can take out of the account each and every year if you need to or if you want to, and that's 5% of the total account balance, what you put in plus any growth that we'll talk about here in just a second. But if you have an emergency that comes along the way, let's say that something happens to the house, or you need to buy a new car that you didn't expect, you do have a 100% what's called bailout option at any time. So if you need your money back at any time, whether it's 1 month in or 2 years in, you can just get your original principal back at any time. Now, if you were to do that, you may be giving up some interest. But if you just need part of the money out, you can take 5% of what you put in plus any growth. But again, we do have this bailout option. Now, along the way, how much can you earn on this particular account? You're going to earn somewhere, depending on the year, somewhere between 0%. If the economy is doing poorly, the stock market's doing poorly, you won't lose anything, but you might not make anything. However, if the market's doing good, we can earn as much as 8.5%. And this is how much interest you could potentially earn. This particular option as well, when you invest money into the account, it comes with a 12% upfront bonus. Now, some of those that know us there in the office at Strategic Wealth Designers know that we like bonus accounts, and this particular account pays 12% up front. So the way it works, you invest $100,000, the very first day you have $112,000 working for you. The thing that I find most interesting about this particular account is for a death benefit. Now again, this is money that will go to your heirs and beneficiaries. You basically have a doubler effect. Whatever you put into the account plus the bonus, if you were to pass away in way of a death benefit, it's going to be basically worth twice the amount of money that you put into it. So, and again, this is a tax-free benefit that goes to whoever you list as your beneficiary. It might be your spouse or a child or a grandchild. So again, let's say we put in $100,000, we have $112,000, let's say something happens and you pass away, well, your heirs then could inherit roughly $224,000 completely tax-free. It's a great way to pass money on to heirs and beneficiaries. And then the last thing to mention on the account is it does have a fee structure, and it varies depending on your age, but for most people it's somewhere around 2% per year. So for around 2% per year, you basically have almost twice as much money that you would have started out with if you just left the money in the savings account or the CD account or a checking account. So let's go through an example. Let's say that you have money invested right now in CDs, and let's say you have $100,000, and let's say you're getting a small amount of interest on it. So after 10 years, maybe that CD is maybe worth, I don't know, $120,000, maybe $130,000. Let's just round it. Let's say we're somewhere around $125,000 is what that CD money might be worth. So if you pass away at that point, that's how much your heirs and beneficiaries obviously would inherit. If we were to go with this particular option here, so we'll call this the Strategic Wealth option. If we put $100,000 into it, again, 10 years later, well, we have more return potential. We have the bonus, so we don't know exactly what it's going to be worth at the end of the 10 years, but let's say it's worth more than the CD. Let's say it's worth about $150,000. Okay, so if you wanted to cash the plan in at that point, you could cash it in, walk away with your money. If you keep it, and then if you were to happen to pass away because of this doubler effect, the amount of money that your heirs and beneficiaries would receive are going to be approximately $300,000. Again, this is just a generic example, but it'll be about $300,000 that they would receive completely tax-free, income and inheritance tax-free, as long as it's structured properly. So this is a really great alternative. Again, if you have money that's just sitting in a CD, savings account, checking account, not earning much interest, and really the intention is to give it to your kids or your grandkids when you pass away, this is a way that we can pick up better interest, pick up some bonus money, as well as be able to pass that money on tax-free to your heirs and beneficiaries. If you have questions about this particular option or you want to look at some other alternatives, feel free to call us at the office and or visit our website.
You're on the back nine heading for the clubhouse. Your dreams of spending time with family and enjoying retirement are just within reach. What happens if you end up in the rough? In these uncertain times, it's crucial to be prepared with sound advice. Strategic Wealth Designers is one of Kentucky's premier retirement planning specialists. For a complimentary consultation, call 1-502-653-6080. Strategic Wealth Designers. Plan to retire well.
On this week's segment of Strategic Wealth University, we're going to be going back in time to take a look at the history of annuities. Now, there's a misconception that annuities are actually a modern investment. And while many modern annuities today are, of course, modern, their origination began with the ancient Romans. Now, the idea or concept of an annuity comes from the Roman word annua. Now, annua was a type of stipend or wage made payable to a Roman soldier as a form of compensation or payment for the civic duty that they provided to their country. Now, the payout was either for the life of the soldier or, in some cases, a predetermined period of time, usually annually. Now, the earliest known dealer in annuities is Gnaeus, Domitius, Annuus, Ulpius. As you can see and hear in his name, Annuus gives us the root annua. Now, another interesting fact about this man is that he is also credited as the first creator of an actuarial table. For those that are unfamiliar, an actuarial table is a table that determines the payout percentage to the annuitant. It takes into account age, gender, health, and other characteristics to determine the percentage of payout if an owner of an annuity wishes to take a lifetime stream of income from their account. Now, if we fast forward a little bit in time, we can then see feudal kings and lords using this to cover the cost of their often and frequent military activity. Now, this application of the annuity offering came in the form of what's called a tauntaun. A tauntaun is a simple way of pooling vast quantities of capital together. As the pool of capital grows, the individual investor would get a payout or dividend to compensate them for their capital contribution. Now, something interesting from this was that this pool or tauntaun would go to the remaining survivor. So as each time and over time would pass, the remaining survivors would inherit the capital, and eventually there would be a winner of the entire amount. Now, while we take a look at the Romans and the feudal kings and lords, where does this tie in today to our present day annuity? Now, annuities came to America in 1759 in a similar tauntaun to a group of pastors in Pennsylvania. These annuities would ultimately provide a lifetime stream of income for the representatives of the church and their families. Over time, these were used, and one of the most famous original users in the United States was Benjamin Franklin. Interestingly, he left an annuity to both the city of Boston as well as Philadelphia. What's even more interesting, as well as amazing, is that they were still being paid out to the cities until the 1990s. Now, annuities were originally slow to catch on. The people of that time felt that they could rely on their extended families to take care of them in their old age. Now, annuities began to gain traction after the stock market crash of 1929, as investors sought safe havens for their hard-earned capital. The annuity began to evolve and became more frequently used towards the beginning of the 50s. Now, the variable annuity was introduced in 1952. For those that don't know, a variable annuity is tied to the market for performance and has the potential for a gain in an up economy, but it also has the potential for a loss in a down economy. Index annuities can participate in the upswings in the market as the variable annuity does. But as the market experiences periods of volatility, the index annuity's principal as well as growth is protected, where the variable annuity has the potential to lose value. Now, as we fast forward a bit more, in 2011, it was estimated that there were over $200 billion of sales of annuities annually. Annuities are an intricate, wonderful investment tool and have helped millions of hardworking individuals protect their assets from the volatility of the stock market and the natural peaks and valleys of a typical stock market investment. Annuities can be a terrific tool for the investor, but it's important to know the key differentiators between the various types of annuities. If you would like more information on the history of annuities or more information on the modern application of these investment tools, please give our office a call or feel free to check us out on the website.
You're on the back nine heading for the clubhouse. Your dreams of spending time with family and enjoying retirement are just within reach. What happens if you end up in the rough? In these uncertain times, it's crucial to be prepared with sound advice. Strategic Wealth Designers is one of Kentucky's premier retirement planning specialists. For a complimentary consultation, call 1-502-653-6080. Strategic Wealth Designers. Plan to retire well.
Well, thank you once again for watching this week's show. You know, Dustin, I think it turned out pretty good.
I do too. It was absolutely a great show. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact our office and/or visit our website.
And remember, retirement planning is a journey, not a destination. We'll catch you here next time.